Every day, people are victims of identity theft, and boy, what a nightmare.
Oh, it is horrible, but there are ways to outsmart those credit card scammers.
And this is Chick to Chick. So as we mentioned, identity theft, nightmare situation. I have not, knock on wood, wherever there is around me, have not had anything major, but I've had dumb things like, someone using my Amazon account and I've had to, prove that that wasn't me. I had someone take my debit card, not my physical debit card, but I had used it at a gas station. And somewhere like 500 miles down the road, someone was using it a day later. I'm like, how in the world does this happen? But the point is, I don't think any of us really realize what can happen to cause identity theft. And you, unfortunately, have had a situation happen to you.
One bad click. That was it. It was one bad click. And it was so honest, I had no idea. So what happened to me, an ad came up on my Facebook page for Wayfair, right?
The furniture place or whatever.
Yeah, where you get stuff,
Yeah.
So the ad came up for Wayfair and they were advertising patio furniture. And this deal looked way too good to be true. All I did was I clicked the ad. I thought it was from Wayfair. And when I started looking at it, 12 pieces of patio furniture for $69.99, I'm like, yeah, this isn't legit. That's all I did. I didn't give him my information. I didn't give him contact. Nothing. So 2 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail, right? And it said that your application for so-and-so for this credit card has been denied. And I'm like, I didn't apply for this credit card, so I threw it in the garbage can. Here's proof that I threw it in the garbage can. You see all these coffee stains?
That's
I
awesome.
threw that letter in the garbage can and thought nothing of it. A few days later, I get another letter. This letter says, your application for your Wayfair MasterCard has been denied. And I'm like, I didn't apply for a Wayfair MasterCard.
Wow.
So now I'm going, okay, something is up. So I go and fish this out of the garbage can. And what happened next was a nightmare of phone calls, this, that, calling the bank, doing all of these things. I immediately called all three of those credit reporting bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. I immediately put a freeze on all of my accounts because I knew what to do to stop this. It didn't stop the scammers, but it stopped them from opening credit cards in my name. And a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Wow.
And so we thought, what a great podcast. And that brings us to our guest today. John Sansonito is the CEO of INA. John, thanks for coming on our podcast today. John, what is INA?
INA stands for Information Network Associates. We are a private investigative and security consulting firm headquartered in Harrisburg.
John, you heard my story. You know my story because you're one of the people who I called when this started happening to me, and I was totally freaked out. John, it was one click. It was a fake website for Wayfair. That was my mistake. But how do you know whether the website's legit or not legit? It looked legit to me.
This happens to millions of Americans every year. And in fact, it's happened to me as well. So everyone's information is compromised. It's just a matter of whether or not the bad guys have got around to using that compromised information. There are, you hear about hacks all the time in the news, and you hear about millions or billions of records being stolen and shared on the dark web. Most of us don't make the connection that some of those records are ours. And there's been almost every major institution has had some kind of data breach at some point, from social media sites to financial institutions to healthcare centers. Our information is out there. It's only a matter of whether or not the bad guys have gotten around to trying to scam and use our name and commit identity theft on us.
Gotcha. So Flora said she was prepared. She knew what to do. What are the first steps that people should take the moment they realize that someone is doing something fraudulent in their name?
The first thing you should do is contact the institution in which you think has compromised your account, or which a credit card has been taken out in, or a fraudulent account or charge has been made. Contact that institution right away. Be careful, however, in clicking on links in emails and other things. You may get an email and say your account was compromised. Do not click on that link. Go out and find the website itself, and all of the major credit card companies and other things have a number or an email address in which you can contact them from. Do not follow the one that was sent to you, because that in itself could be a fraudulent attempt. If you simply turn your credit card over, there's a phone number on the back in which you can call to report a lost card or a fraudulent activity. Use that number. That is much more secure than most means in order to do that. The second thing you need to do is, once you have all the facts, log all of the activity that occurs. Make sure you keep a detailed log of everyone you talk to and exactly what you did. And then third, contact your local police department and report it to them. A lot of agencies will want a police report on file to show that it's not actually a fraudulent attempt to scam the credit card companies by you.
And John, as I pointed out, I contacted Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, and so I put a freeze on all of my accounts. So if I want to open up a new credit card, I can't, because I froze my account, and then I would have to unfreeze it. But doesn't that also prevent the bad guys from doing that as well, because my accounts are frozen?
It does. It allows them to at least flag those accounts as being fraudulent and allow the organizations to know. But there's other things that people can do with your personal identifying information, which maybe use that to try and apply for other credit cards or to apply for credits and walk out of a store with an item immediately before they actually hit the credit bureaus. But that is a very good step in which to do. And if you do that, the credit card companies will ask for a verification once a new account was formed. It gets you immediate notification that something is going on and allows you a chance to dispute that before the charges actually are applied.
Okay, so walk us through. I know you have some really good information that you can share with all of us. Walk us through some of the things that we need to understand and know.
Sure. There are a number of things that you can do to help protect yourself. I'm going to walk you through some of those things. Okay, so I pulled up some sample fraudulent phishing emails that were sent to my place of employment or others that I know. But there are a couple of red flags that you can notice about this. First of all, the email address itself. So the email address that was used by the subject, actually, if something was sent by Microsoft, it wouldn't have an @outlook.com email address. Anyone can apply for an Outlook email address. All they have to do is go to Microsoft and you can set up a free account. It's Microsoft's version of Google, like Google has Gmail, Microsoft has Outlook accounts. So just because it says Outlook does not mean at any means that it's legitimate, but most people will affiliate Outlook with Microsoft, so they'll figure that it might be somehow related. But in fact, it actually would come back with a Microsoft email address extension, not an Outlook extension on the email address itself. The other thing is that you can look for grammar and spelling errors. A lot of times these emails are generated from foreign countries who have only a mild understanding of the English language. You will notice that some of the things have typos in them, or the wording is a little bit off than what Americans would usually use in their language. So there are some red flags in there, such as the one that's on the screen. Here's another one that was sent to an employer. This was actually sent to my employer here at INA. It was sent to the HR department, trying to get my HR department to tell them that I changed banking information and that I needed my direct deposit rerouted to my new bank. But a couple of things that are red flags. Immediately you can see that they use this lifesoeasy56@gmail.com account. I can assure you I've never been affiliated with that email account. It was something they made up. And, our email server automatically puts up this notice to say that an email came from an outside source. It's not an internal email. That should be a red flag to say, why wouldn't I use my company email to make this request? Why would I send it from a personal email account? Also, the body of the email is strangely worded. It has some unusual writing and wording within it. If somebody were to read that, it should be a little bit different from any correspondence they've ever had from me. And obviously it didn't have our usual company email extension or signature block within the item itself. Here's a version that came by text. This is, I got this text message on my personal phone. Basically, it was saying that your PSECU account is under review, security measures. But you can see even here, if you look at it, they don't have, does not link out to a PSECU. It links out to a PESCU. So they created a fictitious account that made it look like close enough to PSECU, where people would immediately think that that's legit. If I had clicked on that link, it would have brought me to a phishing website, probably asked me to log on and try to get my banking information, and then my account would have been cleaned out by the end of the day. So if you suspect that your email account may have been compromised, or if you'd like to just check and see which data breaches it has been, there is a website that you can go to, and this is a legitimate website. I would highly suggest that your viewers go to this website. It's called haveibeenpwned.com. Pwned is actually a slang term for owned. It goes to video gaming, console talk, but the phrase is used. It's kind of a slang word that's used in online community. So if you go to this website, and I put the website out to the left, if you go to that website and you put in your email address, they're not going to ask you for anything other than your email address. But if you put that in, it'll tell you all the data breaches in which your email address was compromised. And by looking at that, it'll give you a good idea of whether or not your accounts have been compromised. And if you read on, it'll tell you whether or not they got your actual passwords, or whether or not they just mined data that had to do with your username, or what kind of information was actually compromised, because a data breach covers a lot of things. They don't always get all your personal information, but what they do is they piece together bits and pieces of information from multiple breaches in order to commit a crime against you.
John, this is such great information as we're running out of time here, and to wrap things up, what's your final message to everyone?
I think that you need to be very careful while you're out there and shopping. Be careful, be suspicious. If you're going to a website to shop, make sure that it's actually a legitimate website. It should have HTTPS at the beginning of it. If the S is not on there, it means it's not a secure website. It's not encrypted. Your data is not going to be encrypted as you're transmitting your credit card information. So always make sure that the website address starts with HTTPS. It does not mean that is a secure website. It does mean that it's encrypted. But the bad guys will also register and use HTTPS websites as well. But don't use your credit card or put your credit card into a site that doesn't have an S on the end. Even if it does, though, make sure that you're on a legitimate site. There are a lot of people out there that are thinking about nothing other than how to get your money. Be careful out there. Do not use public Wi-Fi while you're doing banking or other things. If you enter in a password on an unencrypted public Wi-Fi, then bad guys can intercept that. It's done out in the open. It's not encrypted. So be careful where you use that, where you shop, and look at your bank statements and look at your credit cards and your credit on a regular basis to make sure that nobody's opening up fraudulent accounts in your name or making fraudulent accounts charges against your credit card.
John, a wealth of information, all great information.
Wow.
It's scary, but thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You know, and again, with my situation, I should have known. I mean, this deal that came up on my Facebook, it was just too good to be true.
Yeah, but you didn't do anything more than see
it
and clicked it. So
I clicked it.
You didn't,
that's all I did.
Isn't it frightening?
But as he said, they just get a morsel of information and try to go with it. They got my email address and tried to open up a credit card, and then they said, oh, well, this is not matching up. We didn't get all of the right information. And that's how the whole thing stopped. But yeah, it was just, this deal, it was too good to be true. And I just clicked it.
I was speechless, if you noticed.
I did.
Which tells you a lot. This was incredible information. I, too, am going to go back and rewatch this podcast. And I'm going to make some notes because it was fantastic.
It was great.
We are so happy that you were with us today. We bet you're happy about it, too. We hope you go over to our YouTube page, Chick to Chick YouTube, like and subscribe until we are back to chirp about another topic.